Okay, so in this video, we are gonna start texturing our eyeball and iris. So this is also gonna be the first video where we are actually gonna be using a little bit of GIMP. I am in this website called Pixabay. The website basically provides you free images that you can actually use for any purpose. So what we are going to be doing, as you can see that I've actually searched vein in order to extract a little bit of textures of veins, but it didn't work. As you can see, it didn't give me really nice images, but I am just going to be using the lightning actually. So I have searched lightning and there are multiple images as you can see that have popped up. So we are going to be using some of these images. You can just pick whichever you like. Actually, it doesn't really matter. Or you can draw your own. It is also okay to do that. Yeah, you can see that we have a whole lot of images to choose from. So I am choosing this one because as you can see from this single image, we can actually extract a whole lot of vein texture. So this is something that we are going to be using and I'm just going to download it in the full resolution. So as you can see what we have downloaded. And now I'm just going to be opening this image up into the GIMP so that we basically can extract out these lightning and use those as a veins. So you can clearly see like these lightnings and stuff. Let's actually open up the GIMP and I have already imported the image in the GIMP by the way so that we can just start doing. So right now what I'm doing, I'm just cropping this part out and now that we have this image, I am just going to remove all the colors, which means that I am going to go into the color section. I think I don't know GIMP by the way. I'm just a pro Photoshop user, but for this course I had to use the GIMP. And I am just going to remove all the saturation. So as you can see, this is a pure black and white image now. And now in order to separate out the vein, we need to make sure that the background is actually just pure black so that we basically don't get anything like grayish. And in order to do that, as you can see that I am actually using the color level. In your case, you can use curves or whatever way you basically like to, increase the contrast. So as you can see that with the increased contrast, we have actually gotten this image and that's how you would basically create a vein texture. There is one thing that we need to do. We need to blur this out a little bit. So that is gonna be the next step. But before we actually start blurring things out, we need to remove a little bit of color from the from the top and bottom where this is clipping to the edge, so we don't really want it to clip. And also if you feel like that there is something extra in the image, also erase that particular part out. So yeah, you can see that I am removing the top and bottom so that it won't actually clip. And now I can just blur this part out. So yes, just go into the blur, Gaussian blur, and in this case I think how much blur am I gonna use? I think 2.5 is what I'm using, and that's how you would create the vein texture. I have actually created multiple, as you can see that I have created these multiple textures. So just create your own, or I am also gonna be providing you these, so you can also use these one as well. But if you feel like that you actually want more, you can just create your own. That's it basically for the vein texture. This is the first time we have used the GIMP. There is gonna be the second time by the way, but these were the UVs that I've just shown you, and now we can actually just go into the sculpt mode again. We are not, we are gonna be using the same workflow. We are not gonna be using the texture mode workflow because again that workflow is actually kind of slow to paint with. And if you really want to, what I am doing right now, I am just removing these edge loops because these are not going to be seen in the render. So in order to save a little bit on polygons, you can actually just do that. It is totally up to you. If you really want to, you can remove more. If you really want to, you don't even have to remove. In this case, as you can see that I just wanted to show you that you can absolutely, it is 100% fine to do so. That's why basically I have removed some of these edge loops. Again, we are going to be subdividing it to a decent amount of polygons, and then we are just going to be applying the multi-res modifier because yep, you had to apply the multi-res. And yeah, you can see that in order to lower down the polygon count, I have removed some of the edge loops which are on the back. By the way, don't remove it from the front, otherwise it's not really gonna look that good. We are gonna get 3.7 million faces to paint on, and I think that is gonna be decent amount of faces, by the way. Okay, so now that we have basically done everything to prepare for the painting, let's actually just go into the sculpt mode. And you already know the brushes. Actually, we are just gonna be using the same brush, but let's just go into the sculpt mode, not in the material viewport. But sometimes I actually press the wrong buttons, and it is kind of embarrassing, not gonna lie. Let's actually just get out of the render viewport and go into the sculpt mode. So we are in the sculpt mode, and again, you already know the brushes. Actually, I am just going to append them from the previous files, or maybe I'm just going to recreate them. I have no idea. Okay, so I think I already have them appended. I didn't knew because I'm again doing a voiceovers. First thing first, let's actually just paint the bigger things, just like we've done with the skin. And we are gonna be starting with a little bit of red. In this case, I think I'm just testing out the brush. I think that's what I'm doing because this is definitely not the color for the eyeball. But yeah, you can like see the amount of randomness we have. You can see the blues, you can see the greens, yellows, reds. We need to also see in the reference some of these spots that you can clearly see, even though they are not as clear, but you can see that these spots that he have, and we obviously need to add them. This is something that I am gonna keep in mind because we actually have these stuff in the references. Okay, so just like with the previous files, we are obviously gonna be using the color palettes, and the first color is gonna be a bit reddish, not this one, I think. Let's actually see. So this color is gonna be pure red. Okay, I think it's gonna be pure red, no green or blue. So that is gonna be okay. I am also removing a little bit of saturation. Again, this is just a trial and error thing. You obviously don't have to remember the color. Okay, so that's how this color looks, and I think it is actually a bit darker. Okay, so I am increasing the value of the color a bit because I must have felt like that the color was a bit darker. And yeah, you can actually use the symmetry for this because we are just blocking out the color, so it is gonna be a bit faster to do it like this. We are just gonna be using the same workflow. We are gonna be adding the color a bit too much, and then we are gonna be start removing the color, and then that adding and removing of the color is just gonna be giving us the variation that we want. So as you can see that I am actually adding red a bit too much. Like we are not supposed to have red in that particular area, but yeah, we are going to be doing that also. And we have to replace the base color with the color attribute. So I am just going to be adding the color attribute node. You can see that I am just doing that. And that way we can actually just see with the renders if the color is working or not. The similar workflow that we've used for the skin is also going to be the workflow we are going to be using for the eyes. And we are just going to be keep on doing the test renders to see if the colors are working or not. That's actually what we are going to be doing. So Okay, so let's just go into the sculpt mode. By the way, you can again don't see the color and you just have to click on it. I think this color was a bit too saturated and a bit too dark, so I am just like again I was only been able to identify that because I've gone into the render viewport to check whether the color was working or not, and I figured out that the color was definitely not working and I need to lighten the color up a bit. So that's what I'm doing right now. Again, I'm just blocking out the bigger forms first, really focusing on the small little details from the start, but on the bigger forms. And as you can see, this is the color that we have gotten. So yeah, you need to go out in the object mode, by the way, to like see the colors, which is like quite weird. I think they should do something that you can actually just stay in the sculpt mode and just check whether the render is good or not. Okay, so in this particular case, I think this color is actually working, and that's why you can see that I've added the color to the palette. And now I'm just gonna start adding a little bit of pink to the whole area. So as you can clearly see, I am not like pressing too hard. I am just adding a little bit of red to basically every part of the eyeball, because in the future, as I've told you, the workflow, as we are just gonna start removing the colors, we are just gonna get this really nice looking randomness. So yes, right now just trying to add it everywhere. In this case, it is actually pretty nice that we can actually just use the white color as an eraser, and that's what I'm doing to basically remove some of the reds that I've added. You don't really need to have a base color to do that. Uh, okay, so now you can see that I've actually just switched to the bigger details that actually have the texture, the noise texture or the cloud texture. This is the brush that we've actually made in the like in the skin painting video. So this is basically the texture that we are using, and you can see with this texture, if we were to just start removing the reds, you actually just start getting this variation automatically, and it is already looking pretty nice. The variation that we are getting from this brush is already pretty nice. So, and now you can see that we actually had this dark part. I don't think we're gonna be able to see that, by the way, but I am still like removing that. You can see in the reference, by the way, how much of the yellows we have. You can clearly see that it is not pure white, but you can see more yellows actually than the white. So we're gonna just now start adding those. As you can see that I have already started adding the yellows. And again, this is just to block out, like I'm not really going into the details, and the strokes are gonna be pretty broad. Right now, I'm just doing the test render to see, not the test render, but I'm going into the render viewport to see if the yellows are working or not. And I think in this case, the yellow is definitely working. And I'm already talking about the skin tone, by the way, not really talking about the exact texture or anything or the variation, but but the color tone or the skin tone, whatever you wanna call it. Okay, so I think at this point I actually want to add the yellows or the color tones where I am seeing in the reference, but you're gonna see in the future I'm just gonna ignore the reference and just try do it on my own. But yes, right now I'm just trying to add the yellows and the blues. I mean, right now I'm just only adding the yellows, but right now I'm just focusing on the reference, which I'm just gonna totally ignore in the future for some reason. But you should not, by the way, you should not do it. I'm still gonna be adding a whole lot of stuff from the reference. We are definitely gonna be adding this color to the palette because this color actually looked pretty nice. So yes, we are definitely gonna be doing that. And again, with the white color, you can actually just remove the color that you have overdid. So if you were to just overdid a little bit of strokes, instead of undoing and going back all the way, you can just use the white to, remove some of that. And that's what I'm doing right now. So we basically have a long way to go. With after the yellows, we also need to add a little bit of blues, and then we need to paint the veins. By the way, there is one thing that I wanna say. In this particular case, it would have been so much nicer if we can like sculpt the vein with the draw brush, for example, with the like with the alpha that we have created, and simultaneously we could have also been able to add the color to it. So for example, we are adding the veins and the colors simultaneously. I mean, that would have been pretty nice because then we didn't really had to, bake a normal map or a displacement map, or convert the color into the displacement or bump, which we did in this case. But yeah, before we start talking about that, you can see that I've actually added a little bit of blues. I am actually just copying that and then pasting it into my original file where we actually have the head, so that it would be easier for us to, add all the details according to the real eye location. So I am just gonna be putting it into the original place. So let me just go into the local view by selecting both of these. And also you need to remember that we have actually rotated them outwards on 2.5 degree. So we need to make sure that we actually do the same thing with the new eye as well. And I am just going to position it accordingly. And before that, I am, as you can see, setting up the parent-child relation between the eyeball and the iris, so that the iris would always follow the parent. And now I can actually just copy the attributes. By the way, this has only been possible with the code copy attribute add-on, so you can just see. And now what I can do, I can just copy the location, and as you can see, it basically I've just snapped to it, and I've also copied the rotation, I think. So yes, I was actually able to copy both of these. And now we are just gonna be, enabling the subdivision surface so that we basically can accurately, see whether the size is correct or not. And now I'm just going to put the older eye into a new collection called backup. So this is actually kind of important just in case if you were to mess something up. And I'll actually just hide the new collection. And now we have the eye, which is pretty nice, pretty nice. We also have the iris, which we have sculpted. So that's also pretty awesome. And now we can actually just use the mirror modifier to basically mirror everything. We are just going to be using the mirror modifier. I guess before that we are just gonna start sculpting. Maybe I'm just gonna add the mirror modifier later. I don't know. But I thought that I'm gonna be adding one, but I didn't. But yes, you can see the position of the eyes and how much of the red you need to be able to see. Also, we have the older colors, so I need to just copy the newer colors. So as you can see that I'm actually just copying the hex value, and now I'm just gonna put that into the color and create new palettes. So this is pretty easy, right? I don't think this should be that hard to understand. So I have added both of these color to the palettes, and now you can see that the red was coming a bit too far up, and I had to remove that. I can clearly see with the eye in the eye socket how much of the color we need to add and how much we need to not add. So this is gonna be a bit better to paint now. I am actually adding a little bit of red on the edges so that we basically can get a hint of AO. Also, one of those things that you can see in the reference. So I am like still trying to make sure that I basically can get as much close to the reference as much as I can. Obviously, this is not like the eyeball that we have in our character. He is a different person. So the idea is to just get the hint of how the eyeball should look and not to exactly match it with the reference. I am like adding and removing colors again. This is pretty similar to what we've done with the skin. Oh, by the way, there is gonna be another video on the skin painting and the eye painting after this one, so that you basically don't miss any of the things that I've actually did behind the scene. Okay, so now obviously this is not the brush for the veins, because this brush actually have a little bit of variation, and we actually cannot use this brush. So we are just gonna be creating a brush in order to use the alpha that we have created. Okay, so let's see, we have these alphas, and you can use whichever one you want. In this case, let's see, we are gonna be using the one that we have created. First thing first, we need to change the stroke method from space to, I think, anchored. So let's just do that. So the space method is gonna be anchored, so that we can basically drag our veins out like this, as you can see. In this case, the color is definitely not working, so we need to change the color. We obviously need to do a little bit of test render to see if the color is working or not again. That is just the process. So yeah, let's actually see. In this case, you can see the veins that I'm referring to, by the way. Obviously, this is not gonna be like accurate to the one that we have in the reference. So we just need to make sure that we actually get something closer to it in terms of look. We don't really need to match it 100%. So that is something that we can 100% just ignore. But yes, you can see the amount of veins we have. We can match that. The colors, we can match that, and the variation, the transparency. So, for example, some of these veins are pretty solid. Some of these veins are pretty thin. Some of these are pretty thick. So, I mean, look at the variation that you can see in the eye, right? So, these are the stuff that I'm looking at, not the exact like color. And as you can see in the shader, we have actually lost the mask, so we need to fix that. And in order to do that, actually I am just gonna be baking this mask on an image. So I am like decreasing the contrast, by the way, to bake, so that we can just increase the contrast in the main file. So right now I'm just gonna bake this onto an image without as much contrast. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I have sped up this part because I think that you already know how to bake stuff. This is not as important, so I am just gonna be doing that. And as you can see that I'm just gonna be baking it onto an image. We have actually gotten this image. Now we can actually just plug it into our mask instead of all this stuff. And I am just gonna be using the color ramp, by the way, to increase the contrast again, because we've removed the contrast. And the reason for that is so that we can actually adjust that into the color lamp. And now you're gonna be able to see that we have actually gotten the eyeballs. And obviously the eye is actually being rotated a bit too much, so we need to put that back to 2.5, and now I can just do this. So that was the reason that I didn't use the contrast while baking, so that we can actually adjust it right here. And as you can see, it is actually looking pretty nice. So that's what I actually wanted. Now we can just go back to the texturing, I guess. Now that we have, okay, I think we need to increase the contrast a bit more, as you can see. Yes, we need to increase the contrast a bit, and I think it is actually looking fine now. Right now, it is not looking okay, by the way, as you can see, but we are going to be fixing that in the future. The main focus right now is to just start painting the eyeball. We are just gonna focus on the shader a bit later, and I think the vein is looking pretty nice. I don't think we need to actually change the color or anything. We have actually increased the contrast to, fix that particular area a bit, and I think now we can just go back to painting, I guess. Okay, so I think the color is definitely working. We can actually just keep on switching between the alphas. Like you can just keep on trying yourself which one is working and which one is not. In this particular case, I'm just gonna keep on switching between the alphas, and I'm just gonna keep on adding these. Also, you can see that I am actually trying to change the fall off to see how the brush might actually behave with different fall off, that I can, manually add these like lines, as you can see in the reference. I am also trying to match the color, by the way. This particular area is a bit towards purplish side, so I am actually trying to add that purplish kind of a tone in this particular part, and now I am actually also removing it. So you can see it is blurred out in the reference, and I am also trying to achieve the same thing. Getting it 100% accurate as you have in the reference is not the goal here. The goal is to get something similar, because no one really remembers how the veins are supposed to look. I mean, veins are like super random, no one remembers that, but you just need to make sure that you actually get the look right. You need to make sure that it basically just looks like a different version of the same eye. So that's what the focus is. I have these veins, by the way. You can see that they are actually kind of dull. So in order to use those, I had to increase the strength, and you're gonna see why. So if I were to just use this, you can see that they are not really looking that nice. I think in order to use these alphas properly, I think I had to increase the strength to 2, and now you can see that the color is now popping pretty nicely. That is also something that you need to know. You can actually just crank up the strength to 2 or 20 or 2000. We've also used the same thing with the smooth brush in order to fix all the spiking that happened in the multi-res modifier. Okay, so as you can see that I have actually started adding these veins. The idea is to, after doing this, I am just gonna pick up the neighboring color and gonna start blending them in. And the idea is they are pretty dull. As you can see, even in the reference, they are not as strong as the other, like the bigger veins. Now that I've actually added these small veins, as you can see that I'm actually just changing the color. If you were to just start adding veins like this, they are just gonna create this natural looking veins that are gonna look cool when you start blending them in. So this is basically what the process is, and that's why you can see that I'm basically just adding them all over the eyeball. Now let's actually, before blending, we can actually just go into the render viewport to see how good the veins are looking. I think it is looking nice. I think they are actually a bit too much strength in terms of strength. So I think we can, do a little bit of blending in. But yeah, the veins are actually looking pretty nice. We can just follow the reference and we can just start adding these colors to the place where we can see it in the reference as well. Okay, so right now what I can see is that there is a little bit of red in the like corner of the eyes. So that's basically what I'm trying to do right now. As you can see, maybe the color is not accurate. At least that's what I can actually judge right now. But yeah, it could have been a little bit orangish, but in the end, the eyes actually turned out pretty nice. So I guess it is totally fine. You can obviously try your own colors. In this particular reference, the colors are actually looking a little bit orangish. So you can just experiment with that. In my case, I am going a little bit more pinkish and it actually worked pretty nicely. So you basically can just like use whichever one you actually want to use. What I'm gonna do, I am just gonna start adding all the color variations that you can see in the reference. So on the upper left corner you can like see, not the corner is the eye gonna have corner, but the upper left part you can see that there is a darkish bluish kind of a tone that we can see in the reference as well. So this is something that I'm actually trying to achieve in the portrait, and I am just trying to do something similar. As you can see that we have some of these veins, and in order to actually paint those we have to lighten these up a bit so that they actually don't turn out to be as strong as they are right now. So we need to make them a little bit dull. That's why I'm actually just selecting the neighbor color. In this case, I think I'm just selecting the white and removing some of these veins so that I basically can just paint these darker veins that I can see in the reference. So as you can see that I'm just dulling the paint, basically lightening this part up. As you can see that we have something similar going on. Obviously, it's not 100% accurate, but we don't really need it to be 100% accurate. We just need to make sure that it looks kind of similar, even if it is not like 100% accurate, it is totally fine because no one really remembers how the veins actually looks like in an eye. It just need to be close enough. As you can see, the color is obviously not working, so I need to check the color, and that's what I'm doing, I guess. I can also try using a bigger brush so that I basically can get this blur kind of a effect that I have in the alpha. And in this case, actually, the veins are pretty sharp, so you can experiment again. This is something that actually worked for me. But if it is not working for you, then obviously you need to change your brushes settings. In my case, it is working fine, so I am like totally fine with it. Now I'm just picking a few of these veins to draw these out. Obviously, I'm not gonna be drawing all of these because that is not gonna make sense. And you can, by the way, see that we don't have enough polygons to actually draw all these small little shapes. But it is totally fine. In the end, when you'll be rendering these images out, when you'll be rendering it out, the pixels in your render are not gonna be enough to pick up these small little details. So maybe if you are actually just rendering in like 8K or something, maybe then you'll be able to capture all these details. But I think I've rendered it in 4K, if I can remember it correctly. I have even forgotten the resolution. Can you believe it? Like, that's how weird my brain is. I literally have forgotten the resolution of the images, like the resolution of the renders. So as you can see that I'm actually just trying to, do something similar with the veins. Obviously, they are not going to match 100%, but then again, that's not what the main goal is. The main goal is to just do something similar, and that's what's happening right now. So yeah, you can see that I've actually changed the color for this particular one because the color was actually different. So I thought, why not try changing the color? And in the corner, you can definitely say that there are so much more going on. Okay, so this is something different and it didn't really took that long, but yes, I am actually setting up the camera and I've just duplicated the original one so that I basically don't, lose the position of the first one, even though I could have just done that. I don't know why I wanted to preserve the location. We are basically doing the test renders and I have not talked about the material of the iris, right? I don't think that I've actually talked about the material of the iris. We are going to talk about it in the future, so don't worry. Okay, so I think at this particular point, I'm talking about how the reflections are needed to be a bit more jaggy. So I think I'm actually gonna add a noise texture. Let's actually see the shader that I come up with for that. So obviously, a bump is gonna be needed in order to break up the reflections. That is something similar we've done for, okay, right now, the image text, the paint. Okay, wait, I cannot even speak. So, the color that we are drawing is basically being used as the bump map. As you can see, the veins are actually going in, which is not something that we want. We want the veins to come out. So that is like super important. But obviously, because we have not painted anything on the lens part, there isn't any like bump on the lens, but definitely we need a little bit of bump on the veins as well. So I think that's what I'm setting up right now. And we also need to break up the reflection. So I think we are just going to do that in the future. One thing you can do, you can actually just experiment it again. I have actually said this so many times, but all the projects are different. You cannot just copy paste the settings. So just try, do on your own and try to figure it out. So the noise texture is actually in the normal. That's why it was looking weird. And obviously, we're gonna have to change some of the settings. And yeah, let's actually just try and do that. So if I were to just go back to the shader, to the mix shader, you can see how the reflection is breaking up. And if I were to just increase the scale, you can like clearly see what we are achieving. Am I just gonna be using the noise texture? I cannot even remember because noise texture is not looking that nice right now. Let's see. So I am like increasing the details, roughness, I think. Let's see. So we are definitely, we have successfully broken up some of these surface, and you can see that we are actually getting this reflection. By the way, you can actually try to increase the specular. I don't think in this particular case I've actually tried doing that. But if you really want to, you can just change these settings. So I am again back to painting and I'm just gonna repeat all the stuff. So as you can see the render, you definitely can compare how much of the red we have, how much of the blue we want. The eye is definitely a bit too much white right now, and we need to add a little bit of more colors to it. By the way, not in these small veins. I was actually talking about the bigger veins that I've just painted. So yeah, now I am just randomly adding these veins that I can see in the reference, and I'm basically just repeating the same thing that I've did to the other side. Okay, so as you can see, I have also added some of the yellows, and now I am actually just going to compare both of these sides. As you can see that I've actually added the yellow only on the one side. So you can see that it is actually working nicely. Like you can see small little veins, and I think it is looking pretty nice. Now, obviously, my cursor was at the iris, so I think I'm actually gonna change something. So you can see in the reference, pupil part is supposed to be a bit more wider, and we also need to, do the UV unwrapping because we still have not done that yet. And in order to actually paint out the stuff, it is actually kind of important to do that. By the way, I have only added this one seam, and you can just do that. You can just leave it right here. Okay, so these are the UVs, and yeah, this is like totally fine. By the way, you can just leave it right here. You can see that it actually have lagged, which is quite weird because we worked on a 52 million polygon, and for some reason, this 3 million polygon iris lagged. So this is also something that you can actually expect from Blender. Obviously, we're gonna have to do some renders to see if the color is working, and you can like see. You can, by the way, just compare the colors, and if you feel like that the color is working, you can obviously just change it a bit later. In this particular case, I want the color to be a bit more brown, and you're gonna see that I've selected the color, and now I'm just going to paint it again. So you can see the color is actually turning out to be brown, and also, one of the things, by the way, that I've done, especially for this eye, I have lowered down the value of this color pretty significantly. If you were to see the render, you're gonna realize that that is something that I've did behind the scenes, so you might not have been able to see that. That's why I'm actually just telling you right now. In the future, if you were to just compare it with the renders that we've done for the promo, like the final renders, if you were to just look at the final renders, you're gonna realize that the value is actually pretty low of this color. So I'm just telling you that I've done that behind the scene. Now you can see in the reference how the part that is coming up, that is like the bigger part, is actually a little bit brighter. So that's basically what I'm doing. I'm just looking at the reference and try to copy what I'm seeing in the reference. So yeah, this part is actually supposed to be a bit lighter, even though in the end it didn't really matter because I've literally made it black. Like literally, it was actually super black. You can see it in the render, but yeah, I am like still painting it so that I can actually just get it as close as to the reference. You can see the inner part is actually a bit darker, and this is again totally something that I am seeing in the reference, and I am just trying to copy that in the portrait. By the way, you can actually add some of these random darker spots and some of these random brighter spots that you can see that I've actually added. So that is also one of those things that you can do. Actually, you should do, and obviously just do the test and just like figure it out on your own if the color is working or not. In this case, the iris is pretty much done. It didn't really took that long, but if I were to go back to the iris, I don't think in this particular case it is gonna matter as much because you actually cannot see the iris. Even though we've actually painted it pretty significantly, you cannot really see that much of a difference. By the way, you can also see it in the shader. I am just using the same shader. You can like see subsurface color is actually similar that I've shown you already. In this particular case, I've just removed the subsurface, so I don't even remember if I'm using the subsurface or not. The roughness is at 1, by the way, so the iris is not reflective. This is actually pretty important. Iris, I've never really seen an iris being reflective. So, okay, you can see that I'm actually dialing down the color. Okay, so this video is also about to end. So I guess there is gonna be the second part of this series, and I'm just gonna see you in that one.